Jess.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Sunday. I'm Jessica. I'm from Indonesia, and I just moved to the UK about a year ago. We've been a part of this amazing church for a couple of months now, and we were so welcomed with open arms, and so it's just such an honor to be up here today. Thank you for the opportunity to just let me share a little bit about my story and how I got here. So a little bit about me. I came from a different religious background and grew up in a family that some would say was almost perfect. I was a very obedient child, and I loved my parents like crazy. They seemed perfect in my eyes, and they were everything to me. My parents were pretty religious, and so I grew up believing in God, but a very conditional kind of God. And so I only prayed to God on 2 occasions when I felt like I needed him the most, which was before an exam and before getting on a plane. I attended Christian schools and had a lot of Christian friends who joined me at university in Singapore, and they would invite me to church every Sunday. And I felt like the God of the Bible made more sense to me than the God I knew growing up. But in true traditional fashion, my parents warned me not to change my religion I was born with, and I didn't feel like I needed to either. Although I would listen to sermons, I never really pursued God in any way, and I didn't really feel like I needed to have a relationship with God. Life was great, I was having fun, and everything was under control until I graduated in 2018. I couldn't secure a job in Singapore, and I had to go back home to live with my parents. That felt like a massive blow to my pride in my pursuit of worldly success. But far worse than that, I came back home to find my parents at war with each other, fighting every day and accusing each other of things there is no answer. And I was convinced that there is no God. But one night, my brother's friend flew in from Bali for a meeting, and she stayed with us. She noticed that I wasn't really myself, and I didn't leave my room, and asked me what happened. I told her everything, and she prayed with me. She was a Christian and apparently went through something so similar when she was younger. She told me, "Jess, you are the key to bringing your parents together, but you have to prioritize your relationship with God first." The next day she left because apparently her meeting got canceled. Until this day, I really believe that she was God sent, as if I needed to hear that. So I reluctantly said a silent prayer that went something like, "God, I want to know you, and I want to study the Bible." 2 weeks later, I had a business meeting with a friend's mom, who then asked me if I wanted to study the Bible, and of course, I said yes. I started studying the Bible, but felt like it wasn't really for me. I was like, why do I have to change when my parents are the ones with issues? I could no longer stand being at home with my parents, and so I went back to Singapore to do my master's degree to escape and hopefully secure a job in Singapore. But back home, my parents' situation kept getting worse. And I felt like I no longer had anything to lose at this point. I got down to my knees and I asked God if he was really there. The next day, I was on my way back from university, and at the corner of my eye, I saw this massive black truck pass by, and it said, "Jesus always delivers." Now that I think of it, it's probably a delivery truck, but in the 6 years that I had been in Singapore, I had never seen it before, and I had never seen it again. I took it as a sign and decided to continue studying the Bible, and this time I felt like I had nothing to lose. I was honest, I was vulnerable, I was eager. And I finally understood that my heart was so full of pride, worldly ambition, and idols that were my parents, and I didn't have any room for God. By the end of 2019, even though my situation back home hadn't changed, I felt like God's peace in my heart, and I experienced God's love in so many ways that I could no longer deny that God really existed, and I wanted more of him. In 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, with my parents and friends around, I got baptized. Fast forward to a couple of months later, my parents started studying the Bible, their relationship improved, and they even started to believe in Christ. We even held hands and prayed together every night. I went into studying the Bible and pursuing God, hoping that he would change my situation. And even though he did, I came out of it with something so much more valuable. He changed me. He gave me a new life. He gave me purpose. He gave me meaning. And he gave me an even bigger family. God was my last resort, but I'm so grateful that I wasn't his last resort. And remember the boyfriend I broke up with? Yeah, we got married. That's a completely different story for another time, but I moved here after we got married. And honestly, I left Jakarta feeling a little sad because I thought that God intended for me to make my parents disciples. But what God revealed to me was that he wanted to restore what marriage meant in his eyes. He wanted me to have a spiritual marriage, break traditional boundaries, and maybe someday inspire people through that. And I just wanted to end with this verse today from Mark 6, verse 50 to 51, which always speaks to me. Immediately, Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." Then he climbed into the boat with them, and the wind died down. And maybe if we allow God into our boats, into our situations, into our homes, and into our hearts, he will be the one to calm the storm within us and around us. And spoiler, Jesus always delivers. Thank you.